The stars above the moon's far side had never looked so cold. Commander Nathan Reyes stood at the reinforced viewport of the ISV Resolute, Earth's most advanced deep space vessel, and stared at what his drilling team had uncovered 48 hours ago. It wasn't a rock formation. It wasn't a natural cavity. It was a door 8 kilometers wide, sealed with alloys that hadn't existed in human chemistry textbooks until 3 minutes after they cut through the surface crust. "Joe," Nathan said without turning around, "tell me the energy readings haven't changed." Lieutenant Joe Harlan looked up from her console, her face pale in the blue light of the instruments. "They've tripled, sir. Whatever's inside, it's responding to us." Nathan exhaled through his nose. Slowly. The way his grandfather had taught him to exhale before a decision that couldn't be undone. "Open it." Across 4,400 light-years, in the obsidian command spire of the Galactic Hegemony's 7th Fleet, strategist Selene received the sensor burst and felt her 4 hearts stop, one after the other, like dominoes falling inside her chest. She replayed the data. Then again. Then a third time, because she needed to be certain she wasn't misreading primitive human telemetry. She wasn't. "Me," she said to her first analyst, her voice stripped of its usual imperial composure, "confirm the coordinates." Analyst Me Karath, a hegemony-born Velthari with silver-threaded skin and 12 years of flawless service, confirmed the coordinates and went visibly pale in a way that his species biologically wasn't supposed to. "It's the moon. The human moon. The Vault of Aerith." "Don't say that name on an open channel," Selene snapped. She turned to her secondary officer. "New York, how fast can we get a suppression fleet to the Sol system?" New York Bressuk checked his calculations twice. "At maximum full drive? 11 standard days." Selene stared at the expanding energy signature blooming from humanity's small, gray, underestimated moon, a signature that the hegemony's own ancient records described as the breath before the storm, and said 4 words she had never said in her career. It won't be enough. Inside the lunar vault, the humans hadn't panicked. That was the part that would later confuse every xenosociologist in the hegemony. They catalogued. Engineer Dai Okonkwo was already on her 3rd data pad, photographing the wall carvings that stretched for kilometers in either direction. Linguist Hai Vasquez was building a translation matrix in real time, her fingers moving faster than her team could track. Behind her, physicist Chen was completely silent, the most alarming sign of all, since Wa hadn't been silent in 11 years of space service, staring at the central mechanism rising from the vault floor like an ancient god deciding whether to stand. It was a machine. Or it had been. Something had grown into it over hundreds of thousands of years, the original architecture fused with a crystalline intelligence that pulsed with light each time a human stepped closer. "It's learning us," was said finally. "The pulse pattern, it's matching our heartbeats. Individually." "How is that possible?" Dai asked. "It was built to interface with biological neural networks," Hai said, not looking up from her translation work. "The wall text isn't a warning. It's instructions. Whoever buried this here, they wanted it found. They wanted it activated." Nathan moved to the center of the room. He could feel the pulse of the machine like a second heartbeat in his sternum, steady, deep, older than anything humanity had ever built. "By whom?" he asked. Hai finally looked up. Her eyes were bright. "By us. It says, and I'm doing my best with a language that predates written human history, it says, for the children who would be ready when the wolves came to the door." The room went silent. Joe broke it first. "Sir. The hegemony is moving ships." Selene's suppression fleet was 11 days out. She knew, with the cold mathematical certainty that had made her the hegemony's finest strategist, that it would not matter. She had read the Vault of Aerith files, the ones sealed in the hegemony's deepest archives, the ones that the High Council referred to only as the contingency we will never have to consider. She had read them as a young officer, dismissed them as mythology, and quietly buried the memory. Now she dragged them back out. The vault had been placed by a civilization so ancient it predated the hegemony by 60,000 years. A civilization that had watched species rise and fall across this galaxy like tides. Before they departed, where they departed to, no archive dared speculate. They had built several things. Safeguards. Gifts. Tests. One of them, buried beneath the surface of a small rocky moon orbiting an unimportant blue planet, had been calibrated specifically to the species that would eventually evolve there. The humans hadn't stumbled on something alien. They had stumbled on something that had been waiting for them. Selene opened a direct channel to Nathan's vessel. It was an unprecedented breach of hegemony protocol, a senior strategist, speaking directly and unencrypted to a human commander. Her second officer started to protest. She silenced him with a look. The channel opened. Nathan's face appeared on her screen, dark-eyed, tired, and utterly calm in the way she had come to understand was specifically a human kind of calm. Not the absence of fear. The management of it. "Commander Nathan," she said. "I am strategist Selene of the Galactic Hegemony's 7th Fleet. I need you to understand the magnitude of what you have found." "I think I'm starting to," Nathan said. "What's the hegemony's play here, Selene?" She paused. He had used her name without title. On any other day, in any other circumstance, she would have had him sanctioned for it. Today it felt like the only honest thing in the conversation. "The hegemony's play," she said carefully, "is to arrive in 11 days and tell you to step away from the device." "And your play?" Another pause. Longer. Me and New York were staring at her. Wa and Di and Hai were visible in the background of Nathan's feed, still working, always working. "I am telling you this 11 days early so that you can make an informed decision." Selene straightened. "The device in that vault is not a weapon. It is not a power source. It is a key. What it unlocks, the hegemony does not want unlocked. They have built their empire on the assumption that certain doors remain closed." Nathan looked at her for a long moment. Behind him, Joe caught his eye and gave a small nod. "Selene," he said. "What happens when we turn the key?" "The vault's records suggest that the species which activates it receives standing. Not political standing. Not military standing." She searched for the right translation across 6 centuries of hegemony linguistic drift. "A kind of recognition. From something much older and much larger than the hegemony. Something the Empire has spent 60,000 years quietly hoping would never notice them." The machine in the background of Nathan's feed pulsed. Once. Twice. Then it held steady, a warm, deep, golden light spreading across the vault walls, chasing away the shadows. Hai looked up from her translation pad, her voice barely a whisper that the open channel still caught. "It's ready." Nathan held Selene's gaze across 4,400 light-years. She saw it then, not arrogance, not aggression, but something she had never seen in any species she had negotiated with across her career. A kind of stubbornness so fundamental it had calcified into identity. Humanity had been told no by the universe so many times, by distance, by physics, by biology, by empires like her own, that the word had simply stopped landing. "Tell your fleet," Nathan said quietly, "not to rush." He reached out and placed his hand against the machine. The pulse that radiated outward from Earth's moon was not loud. It was not violent. The hegemony's instruments registered it as a low-frequency carrier wave, old band, encoding a signal type that hadn't been active in this galaxy for 60,000 years. In the hegemony's deepest archive, 17 sealed files simultaneously unlocked themselves. In 11 hegemony border systems, automated warning beacons that had been dark for recorded history activated and began broadcasting. In the High Council chamber, an emergency session was called. And in the vault beneath the moon, as the golden light rose to fill every corner of the ancient space, Joe touched Nathan's shoulder and said, "Sir, we're getting signals." thousands of them. From all over the quadrant. Nathan looked at his crew, at Joe, at Di still writing, at Hai weeping quietly over her translation pad, at Wa finally smiling, at his whole impossible team of stubborn, cataloging, never-stopping humans, and felt something settle in his chest like an answer arriving exactly on time. "Tell them," he said, "that Earth is listening." In the hegemony's war rooms and throne chambers, in every corner of an empire built on the comfortable assumption that some species simply never mattered, the wolves had come to the door. And found it already open.